You have to go from an in-house on bare metal ECC environment, and that's
Hmm.
just the hardware and landscape. Now you're going to a full cloud with a completely revamped S4 environment. And what we're getting a lot of is these individuals think that it's just very easy to go from the ECC to the S4. They don't understand the change management involved. They don't understand the way that SAP has cleaned up the code and consolidated the code base down. So instead of doing 8 different steps to get to something,
Hmm.
you're only doing one.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. Your host here, Alessandro, today, joined today by Christopher Carter. Today we'll be diving into his story, a little bit about his company, Approyo, and much more inside the IT and tech space. So definitely make sure to stick around. But without further ado, I'll kind of just pass it on over to you, Chris, if you don't mind just introducing yourself to the audience and telling them a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Well, good morning, Alessandro. It's good to talk to you again. And I can't roll my R's as well as you, so I'm going to let you do that. Uh,
We'll
I'm
forgive you.
Alessandro. Hey,
There
I
you
did.
go.
Look at
There you
that.
go. There you go.
Oh wow, I'm gonna get a new career out of this. I love it, man. Um, well, I am Chris Carter. I'm a 8-time founder of IT companies around the globe. I currently am the founder of Approyo. I also am the founder as part of the Carter Group, 3 other IT companies that fit into the AI cloud SAP space. And very fortunate that I have a group of not only staff members that I just love to death, but I also have these customers over here that I love as a founder. So I've been doing this. This Approyo has been since 2011. We provide services to the SAP ecosystem. And right now we are in the largest upgrade cycle in
Hmm.
SAP history. So all of the customers that are currently on in-house bare metal or VMware-based systems must transition to the cloud, and that's
Yeah.
on rise with SAP. So that activity really means it's the largest upgrade cycle in history, as I just stated.
Yeah.
You have to get 487,000 customers
Oh,
upgraded and onto a cloud by the end of 2027. Or if you have a very complex landscape, we have an additional 2 years to support you with those activities. So there's a reason why I'm bald now, Alessandro. It's just craziness right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, hey, you know what? It keeps you it keeps you young. It keeps you young in by heart, right? When you're obviously on the move like that. So I can appreciate that. But if we wanted to just rewind the clock back, just for the listeners here,
Yep.
I'm curious to hear a little bit about the founding story of Approyo and kind of what led you to building that company. What was the story behind that?
Well, it's actually pretty cool. If, in my opinion, I was retired. I had retired in 2010. I got burnt out on SAP. I had sold off one of my entities that was an SAP based training entity, and I just kind of said, I'm done. So I went to go work for a startup actually out of Santa Monica,
Hmm.
Service Mesh at the time, and I was running their North American sales development activities, and I was just doing that, nothing else. And one day, the vice president of SAP, who lived in Milwaukee with me, shows up at my door with a bottle of scotch, a bottle of Glenfiddich 21, and it comes in a little slider box. You got to pull it
Hmm.
out. He goes, "Look, we need to talk about what's going on at SAP. We really need you back in the ecosystem." So we went outside to my fire pit, and we
Yeah.
literally sat there with 2 glasses, a whole bucket of ice, and one bottle. And by the time that bottle was gone between the two of us, the ice was melted, the glasses were empty, and I was booking myself a flight to Waldorf, Germany, literally the next day to try to get to SAP. They couldn't meet me, so I decided to go to Palo Alto, which is their North
Uh,
America headquarters at the time for technology. I met with some of my buddies from my SAP days there. Then I flew over to Germany and I met with several of my friends there. We started talking about this database called HANA, this in memory.
mhm.
I said, well, if I could do what I was doing in regards to my management and solution set of hosting and running an environment in a cloud, think you guys could do something in regards to a partnership. Well, I said, we got this new startup service program. It's a new startup focus partners. We got the first 25. you can get this to work and you can show me that it'll work. I got
Hmm.
information from one of the directors and VPs there. We'll give you one of the first original 25.
Wow.
2.5 weeks later, my original team that I had been working with, myself, in our part-time, we got it all together. We showed that to them. Now, it was kludgy at best,
Uh-huh.
but it was running on a cloud. It was supportive. I could make transactions inside the cloud. And they
Wow.
said, okay, if you've got it this far in 2.5 weeks, you're one of our first startup focus program members. And that's where
Wow.
it went from 2011, literally the entire year of 2011, got everything in place, did everything that we needed to do, how we do it. And then finally came out of stealth mode after that.
It's crazy what a bottle of scotch can do, huh?
Thank God it was a good bottle too. 1 year old, baby. But yeah, that
That's
was
awesome,
it.
man. And it's cool. It's always cool to hear like the backgrounds and how things, turn in from just an idea and then obviously go on to then becoming this full-fledged company, right? That you guys are obviously running and gunning now. I'm for some of the audience that's listening, like when it comes to just some stories that you may have with clients and how you maybe even help them transition, right? Because I know a lot that's a big thing that's happening with the S4 HANA upgrade. What's been some of those maybe you know challenges that a lot of clients face beforehand, kind of working with you, and then what you guys are able to do and being helping them overcome those?
And Alessandro, that's a great question because right now during this upgrade, you have to go from an in-house on bare metal ECC environment. And that's
Hmm.
just the hardware and landscape. Now you're going to a full cloud with a completely revamped S4 environment. And what we're getting a lot of is these individuals think that it's just very easy to go from the ECC to the S4. They don't understand the change management involved. They don't understand the way that SAP has cleaned up the code and consolidated the code base down. So instead of doing 8 different steps to get to something,
Hmm.
you're only doing one. And
Mm.
unfortunately, customers think that, oh, this is a whole ECC. We can do all this. And then we come in there and we're like, okay, you really screwed this up. You really screwed that, and that's so bad, we're going to have to redo it. They don't understand cloud. They don't understand AI. They don't understand the migration to an S4 environment. And so they think they can just get away with doing it cheap. Now,
Yeah.
remember the old philosophy, you can either do it on time, you can either do it cheap, or you can do it where everything's working 100%. Pick two of the three. What do you want? Well,
Yeah.
I would rather have everything working well, and I'd rather have it done on time. The cheapness, you'll get back your money within the first 12 to 24 months of running that environment in a cloud, but you got to be able to understand. And so that's the problem. The main problem that we see is they think too much of this and not enough of this, the future state.
Yeah. 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 And it's all about the reframe, right? Being able to show people the different side of things that they may not even know, right? And being that trusted partner in a way, right? It's like, hey, you're going down that path. I don't want that for you, right? And
And
you yeah.
I've tried with certain partners to just say, man, we've been working together for 8 years. Have I ever screwed you over? Ever?
Yeah.
And no. So why would you not listen to me when I tell you to do this? If it's for a couple of bucks, fine. I'll take that dollars and I'll take it and I'll put it 24 months at the end. So you don't have to pay for it up front or you don't have to pay for it on a month-to-month basis. We'll help you. And we do that with a good number of our SAP customers that we come into. We
Mm.
will do assessments for them. And then when they choose us, we'll take those assessment dollars and we'll put it to the migration. And
Mm.
we'll take that migration instead of forcing you to pay it maybe in two equal payments or 50-50 or quarter. What we'll do is we'll say, okay, you know what? Instead of having you pay in for your migration right now, I'll do it in over 24 months. I'll give
Mm.
you per month build out. And then when everything is signed off and done, your migration is paid for. You don't have to worry about it. So instead of paying $275,000, they're now paying maybe $3,000 or $4,000 per month.
Wow.
Make life easy for them.
Yeah, and I mean that like you said, I mean obviously when you've been working with clients for that long, you want to be able to be that partner, be that advisor in itself. As we're talking here, Chris, I'm curious to get your perspective on kind of what the vision is for Approyo. Obviously, you're 8-time founder now, and it's not your first rodeo here. Like, in the next 12 months, right? I never like to look too far out, like 5-10 years, but what's the vision look like for you guys in the next 12 months?
Sure. So let's start with the first 12 months. My goal is to help as many customers migrate to SAP S/4HANA. Um, there are still over 300,000 customers that must upgrade. So I've written 4 best-selling books on SAP, the Mastering SAP series. I've just added 2 more. One is all Spanish for individuals to be able to understand, and then another one in regards to some of the transitions. So I keep bringing knowledge to the ecosystem. I
Yeah.
want to help them move. Within 24 months, you never know what's going to happen. We get pinged every day by PE firms. We get pinged by bigger partners. The one thing I know is we're a smaller player. We handle about 30 customers every year. We're growing our staff. We've got our Approyo Private Limited organization in India that we hire more people through. Um, can we sustain that growth? I don't know, but I know it's going to happen because we get a lot of needs right now.
Yeah.
Somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, Chris, I want you to go golfing and just speak and talk about your books, and here's a check for X." You know, my wife and I would have to have those conversations. Is she ready for me to be at home 24 hours a day or on the road speaking? But I know at the end of the day, if someone was to come and say, "Hey, Chris, we really, really would like to have your organization, but we want you to go," as long as I'm helping customers, I'm content with that. I really want to help them.
Yeah. And we get a lot of founders that come in and tune into the show, a lot of CEOs, and sometimes early stage founders, right? People that are maybe just
Mhm.
starting. As you've obviously, you've had a career kind of, starting businesses. What's some things that you can recommend, and advice you'd be able to give to someone that's maybe starting a company that's maybe served you well throughout your career?
Yeah, I'm a big Jack Welch guy. Jack Welch and Bill McDermott. Um, I think that the two of them, let's start with Jack Welch. Everybody knows his work at GE. Everybody knows what he did, how he did. I was very fortunate to be able to meet him twice, shake his hand, listen to him, and be in the same room and have conversations with him. Very cool there. Um, Bill McDermott ran SAP from when it was having some issues. People were talking about Microsoft buying it at one point and bringing it into the SAP, and he took that and just ramped it up. He bought over 40 different companies, merged them together, brought in some Israeli companies, brought in some foreign Polish companies, brought in Turkish companies, Indian companies, and really brought the power of SAP from this bare metal, old environment to the ECC R3s environments, and really grew it and started the cloud process 10 years earlier than most companies, with Concur, um, Qualtrics, and some of the other ones that he had brought in. So those two individuals I follow quite a bit.
Yeah.
Of course, Jack has passed on by now. Um, Billy Payne, who I worked for at ACOG when I was a kid, the Atlantic Committee for the Olympic Games. I followed Mr. Payne, quite a bit. Um, and that's pretty much it. I've got
Yeah.
more time to follow myself than anybody else these days.
Yeah. If you were like looking back, right, and because you've obviously started a lot of companies, right, and you've done a lot, in the IT space, right? If you had a chance to look back at your younger self, right, and let's say maybe 20, 30 years ago, you can kind of rewind the clock,
Yeah.
right, and you could give yourself, some words of advice or words of encouragement or whatever you would want to say. What would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back 40 years now. I've been married 25, so if I go back to the 40, I'm 55, so it'd be 15, so my 16-year-old to 21-year-old self when I was in high school and college. Um, First of all, start doing the 5 a.m. wake ups that you started doing when you were in 30s. Start doing those now and start really focusing on that. That changed a lot. You don't need 10 hours of sleep unless you've been drinking all night and hungover. Then you need a little extra sleep, but 6 hours of sleep a night, 7 hours of sleep, more than enough for what you're going to do. Two, start hiring better quality people that can do the work of what you're doing for the company rather than you doing it and trying to spread yourself too thin. I wish I would have done that much earlier. I've got a great CFO, CIO, and COO, and they take on a lot of responsibilities for me. I'm currently in the process of interviewing people for a chief marketing officer position and for a chief revenue officer position. So really excited about those, and hire those people to do the job and give them the reins to do the job. Don't pull on the reins. Don't just hand them over. You're in charge. If you want my opinion, go from there.
Yeah. I love it, man. And I think that's a perfect note to end on, man. I think it's one of those things where, I think you touched on it. Every single entrepreneur needs to know, right? I think we almost have this control complex, right? As entrepreneurs, we want to control everything. We want to do everything because we think we could do it better than most people. But to your point, right? If you're able to delegate those tasks out and trust people to do it, it's going to free yourself up to be able to do other things that you can work on the business with. And, as you mentioned, when it comes to waking up, right, and having the discipline and the early rises the early bird gets the worm, right? It's the most traditional saying out there, and it's very true, right? It's one thing that I saw in my life as well when I started doing early wake ups, that you're just bound to be more productive, right? Especially if you get up early, you're bound to be more productive. But Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure giving you on the show, man. If people are listening to this, they want to reach out to you. Maybe they're hearing about the S4HANA, they want to see what you guys can do to help them. What are some ways to go about reaching you guys?
Yeah, the first one, of course, is our website. We have a lot of great information on there, a lot of things they can download. It's approyo.com, approyo.com. And next show, there's a story behind why I named the company Approyo, but we won't get into that today.
Yeah.
They can reach me personally. They can reach out to our info team. But I would everything starts at a great website. We've got to give them as much information as possible.
Beautiful. Well, I'll make sure to include that in the description for you guys to go check out. If you guys did make it all the way to the end, make sure to go check out Chris and the team. They are Grow IT endorsed over here. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for tuning in. And thank you, Chris.
Hey, Alessandro, thank you. And please say hi to Terrence and the team for me. Love you guys.
Will do.